Hello everyone. So in our previous class, we learned about the structure of pollen grain. It has two layers, the outer exine, the inner entine, and the region where exine is missing is called as germ pore. It is the point from where the pollen tube emerges during germination. Now next, we are going to learn about the advantages and disadvantages of pollen grain. The pollen grains are a good source of nutrients because of which it is available in the market as pollen tablets and pollen syrups, and they serve as a very good food supplement. If we talk about the disadvantages of pollen grain, they can result into allergic conditions like certain respiratory disorders. If we list out some of them, they can be like bronchitis, asthma. So they are responsible for pollen allergies. Not only that, there is a very good example of a plant whose pollen grain has contributed towards a huge pollen allergy. The example is of Parthenium, which had been brought to India and it acted as a contaminant, resulting into pollen allergies. Next, since we are learning about angiosperms which are flowering plants, we saw yesterday in the previous class that most of the pollen grains, they have two-celled stage, that is, one is vegetative cell, the other is generative cell. Almost 60% of the angiospermic plants that you see, among them the pollen grains when dispersed, they have only two cells. So it is 60% of them having two cells, whereas if you observe the remaining 40%, you will see they have three cells. Among the three cells, there is one which forms the pollen tube. We call it as the tube nucleus. And other than that, the generative nucleus, the generative cell has now undergone mitotic division, resulting into two male gametes. So we now have three cells. Now if we look into a pollen germination process, pollen germination, before that, let us understand the term pollination. What is it? The transfer of pollen grains from the anther to the stigma. Now, when it falls on the stigma of a similar species, it would result into secretion of sucrose from the stigma. And other than that, there are many other chemical responses which could be observed, which we will discuss later. So, as the secretion of sucrose occurs, the pollen tube formation begins. Pollen tube formation is followed by the presence of tube nucleus as well as the formation of two male gametes.